Glute growth can be extremely simple, but only if you know these 3 essential things that we're going to talk about in today's video. A well-developed butt is so aesthetic, and in my opinion, it is the most important muscle to grow in the entire body. Therefore, I want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to grow a beautiful, scrumptious peach. If you don't know all 3 of these key things, it's going to be impossible for you to grow the butt of your dreams. So on that note, let's get straight into the first of 3 things you simply must be doing to level up your butt. Firstly, you need to find your glute dominant exercises. And in a second, I'm going to tell you exactly how to find them. But before that, let me explain what I actually mean by glute dominant exercises. Your butt or glutes are effectively a part of your legs. Therefore, it is extremely common that when you're trying to train your glutes, you will be targeting other muscles as well. This is because most of the best exercises for your glutes are compound exercises, which means when you perform this type of movement, you may be targeting at least one other muscle group. In some exercises, without even realizing, you may not be targeting your glutes nearly as much as your hamstrings or quads, which are the other 2 main areas of the legs that can take over during leg compound movements, even though you're obviously trying to hit your glutes. And to make things even more complicated, each different compound movement will work differently from one person to the next. For example, a Bulgarian split squat is a very glute dominant movement for me. I get crazy amounts of glute activation. Whereas a Smith machine squat is a very quad dominant movement for me. I get very little glute activation. Therefore, if I want to target my butt specifically, I would opt for the Bulgarian split squat instead of the Smith machine squat. However, this may be different for someone else. I've worked with clients in the past who get barely any glute activation on the Bulgarians and much more quad activation during this exercise. Whereas when the same client performs a Smith machine squat, they get a lot of glute activation and barely any quad emphasis at all. Therefore, as said previously, each exercise works differently from one person to the next. In addition to this, to see next level glute growth, you need to be training hard. You need to be training close to failure, with maybe 2, 1, or even no reps left in the tank when you're training your glutes. For example, here you see me performing good mornings. In this case, I went to almost complete failure during this movement. And I knew my glutes were the muscle which failed because I felt them burning towards the end of the set and then after the set as well. So here, it was my glutes that went to failure. However, with this particular exercise, maybe you go to failure and instead of feeling it in your glutes, you feel your hamstrings activated. The hamstrings are going to failure, meaning this is a hamstring dominant exercise for you and not a glute dominant exercise. Because of this, your glutes aren't getting anywhere near muscular failure, meaning they're not going to grow as fast as we want. What we need to do here is find the exercises for you which are glute dominant, the exercises which are hamstring dominant, and the exercises which are quad dominant. And to do this, we want to go through a process of trial and error. We know by now that exercises work differently for each person. Because of this, we need to find the best exercises for you, and to do so, we need to make a list of all of these exercises. And as a little reward, later on in this video, I'm going to show you how to access a completely free tool, which is going to allow you to find your glute dominant exercises, alongside some other free tools which are related to the 2 other topics in this video. Speaking of the other 2 topics, let's get onto the second thing that you simply must be doing, which is all to do with your diet. To see next level glute growth, your diet is absolutely essential. You will not grow a next level cake without a good diet. There are a couple of different things we need to focus on when it comes to your diet for glute growth. Firstly, we need to emphasize our protein intake. Protein is extremely important for muscle growth. Once you find your glute dominant exercises and start training close to failure, you will begin to create mini micro tears in the muscle. Once these micro tears are created, you need to fix them with good recovery and a sufficient protein intake. As they repair, your muscles will grow bigger and stronger. If you want to see the best results possible, you need to be consuming around 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight. For example, I'm around 170 to 175 pounds right now. So just to be safe, I eat slightly above this number. So I eat around 190 to 200 grams of protein per day. If you're a 150 pound individual, you should eat around 160 to 170 grams of protein just to make sure you're over the number. If you're a 220 pound individual, you should be eating around 230 to 240 grams of protein per day. Consuming this amount of protein can be very hard if you don't know what you should be eating to reach this number. We need protein sources. My main 5 go-to protein sources are chicken, lean ground beef, sirloin steak, eggs, and the source I consume the most is whey protein powder. For any vegans or vegetarians out there, you can use a high protein meat alternative such as corn. And of course, you can use a pea or soy-based protein powder. But of course, you're not just going to be having these protein sources on their own, which brings me to my second point, eating the right amount of calories for you. Now, it is possible to see glute gains if you're on maintenance calories or even in a slight calorie deficit, especially if you're a beginner and you want to lose body fat at the same time as blowing up your glutes. But if you want to see the fastest butt growth possible, it would be best if you're in a calorie surplus. This is when you're consuming slightly more calories than you burn, maybe around 200 to 300 calories more. And later on in this video, I'm going to give you a tool which will allow you to find the exact calories that are best for you, as well as some high protein meal ideas which will allow you to hit your calories and protein intake. So as it stands, you're going to be getting 3 tools which will not cost you a penny and are going to allow you to blow up your glutes. And of course, there is more to come. Which brings me on to my final point, how we should be training. Earlier, I mentioned the fact that we need to create micro tears when we are training. To do this in the most effective way possible, we need to be training correctly, and there are 2 main areas I want to cover here. Firstly, we're going to be talking about your form and the stretch position. Over the last few years, there has been more and more emphasis in the science-based community on range of motion and specifically the stretch position. The stretch position is the part of the lift where there is the most tension on the butt. If you have ever heard the term ass to grass when talking about a barbell squat, this refers to getting your glutes as close to the ground as possible. This is because you're increasing your range of motion and getting into the stretch position at the bottom of the movement. Because this is the part of the lift where the glutes are under the most tension, this is the most important part of the lift. However, a lot of people struggle to get into this position because they are too tight. And to overcome this tightness, we need to make sure we are stretching, specifically targeting the lower back, hamstrings, and of course glutes. Some of my go-to stretches are the extended cobra for your lower back, cat-cow for the same area, kneeling hamstring stretch, and pigeon pose for your glutes. And of course, I'm going to be hitting you up with a completely free stretching circuit later on in this video. So you can add that to the 3 other tools you're going to be getting. The second area of training I want to cover is implementing progressive overload. A simple way of describing progressive overload is to make sure you are progressing in some way during your training sessions. Some ways you can implement progressive overload are adding extra weight, more reps with the same weight, or slowing down the tempo. All of these are essential to create those micro tears that we talked about earlier. So there we have it. Those are the 3 things you must be doing if you want to see crazy butt growth. And speaking of the butt in more detail, if you haven't already seen on my Instagram and Twitter, on the 29th of November, I'm going to be releasing my very own exclusive website. However, this will be limited to a certain number of people. So if you don't want to miss out on this, head over to my Instagram and hit the link in my bio. Here you can leave your email so you're one of the first people to hear when this exclusive platform goes live. My Instagram is also where you will find those 4 free tools which we talked about in this video. They're all part of the same package, so you'll only have to put your email in once. And in this package, you'll gain access to what I'm calling the Glute Growth cheat sheet. Here you'll get a macro calculator, quick and easy high protein meal ideas, my full pre-glute workout stretching and mobility program, alongside your very own trial and error glute growth checklist. You can find my Instagram by hitting the top link in the description of this video, or by simply typing in Harrison Slade Fit over on the app. As always, thank you so much for watching, fam, and I really hope you enjoyed. In the next month leading up to 2025, I've got some crazy videos ready to go. So if you don't want to miss those, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notification bell so you know as soon as they go live. And whilst you're at it, you may as well hit the like button as well. I'll love you if you do. I'll see you in the next one, Slade fam. Big love, H.